Welcome to episode 31 of the Equestrian Author Spotlight podcast. I'm Kade, and today I'm talking with fellow author Hollie Marsh. Hollie was born in Australia and has ridden since she was 8 years old. She was the typical pony-obsessed child, working endless hours at the local riding school in return for lessons. When she was 13, she got her biggest wish, her first pony, Apollo, a 13-hand bomb-proof gray, and boy could he jump. After that, she rode many thoroughbreds, often off the track, participating in pony club, dressage, and jumping. During university, she went on to ride track work at the break of dawn at Royal Randwick Racecourse and strap the horses at the races. After studying abroad, she bought her first warm blood for show jumping, a 17-hand plus gray called Spot. When she started getting lessons from a German trainer, she began to enjoy dressage, and the jumping kind of dropped away. Since then, she's been lucky enough to have a few lovely warm bloods and to have trained them up to medium/advanced level dressage in the UK. She now has a 7-year-old elegant bay Oldenburg called Frieda. The idea to write Sweetbriars came to Hollie as a teenager, and after having a baby boy in 2017, she fulfilled that dream. She's not sure how, since she hardly slept for 2 years, but she got there. Now, let's get into the interview. Welcome to the Equestrian Author Spotlight podcast, a podcast featuring interviews with equestrian authors who love all things horses and writing about them. In each episode, you'll hear inspirational stories from horsebook authors, including writing advice and marketing tips to help you write your very own horsebook. If you're an author, aspire to be an author, or simply love horsebooks, then you are in the right place. I'm your host, Kade, and creative writing makes my spurs jingle. Hi everyone, welcome to the Equestrian Author Spotlight. I'm Kade, and today I'm so excited to have fellow horsebook author Hollie Marsh on the show, all the way from Australia. Hi Hollie.
Hi. Hi friend down under.
First question that I always like to ask authors, like how did you fall in love with horses?
Oh, well, so for me, like growing up, we had a lot of animals like dogs and cats and cockatoos, and I was always like rescuing animals. So, like dumped cats and kittens and things like that. And then a friend from school had a pony near my house. Then when I was about 14, I got my first I forgot my first horse. She was an ex-race horse, which is probably not the most suitable horse thinking back now. And then I had a fall off her, and it was quite a bad fall. I've got a pin in my ankle, actually. So then I didn't ride, actually, I think for maybe about 1 or 2 years. And then after that, I had a few more thoroughbreds, which I trained. And I just kind of used to like have them as projects and sometimes, train them and then sell them. And then after I studied at uni, I got my first warm blood, actually. And then he was related to a really good show jumper in Australia, like a Grand Prix show jumper, I think it was. Grand Prix. I don't remember. I haven't show jumped for a while now. Anyway, and so I was training him for show jumping, and I took him to a really good coach. It was a Bareiter that came over from Germany, and we were working on our flying changes for the show jumping. And then I just fell in love with dressage, and ever since I've mainly been doing dressage, and I've had more like purpose-bred horses than the thoroughbreds I used to ride growing up. And I've trained the one I've got now. She's still quite young and she's doing about advanced medium. And then my horse before, I had a Danish warm blood, and he was doing about advanced medium in dressage, which I think might be like 4th level, something like that in the US. And then with my last horse, we kind of reached a bit of a ceiling. And now I've sold him to a girl who she jumps and she does everything with him. And and I've got my mare who I was going to sell, but now she arrived in Australia yesterday.
That's exciting.
And I just thought, what, I'm just going to bring her over. And I realized too that horses like her in Australia are really hard to find. They're not as plentiful as in Europe, and very expensive. So anyway, she arrived yesterday, so it's pretty exciting.
Oh, what a gift. That's amazing. Yeah. Because we were talking about, that you were horseless for a moment after you moved to Australia from the UK.
Yeah.
And that is so wonderful to hear. And then, so she's probably in quarantine right now, right? How long do you have to have her in quarantine after bringing her to Australia? That's a pretty long trip for for a horse.
Yeah, it's long. Yeah. So she's been everywhere now. So she was like, she was born in the UK at a stud called Newton Stud. They breed like performance warm bloods. And then she went to France, Barcelona with me because I went to Barcelona for work. Then she went back to the UK. Then she went to Germany in the last few weeks for quarantine for 2 weeks. Then she's flown over in the last few days, and she went via, I didn't realize she was stopping at so many places, but she went Dubai, Hong Kong, Sydney, Melbourne, and now she's 2 weeks quarantine in Melbourne.
Oh, it's going to be such a relief and homecoming when you get to see her again. And
yeah, I think it'll be really nice. And I mean, I have had her since she was a foal, so I think she'll remember me and everything. And yeah, I do feel like it was a little bit like fate, because she's such a nice horse, and I think it should have been really easy to sell her because she's just really easy to do everything with. She's young, she's doing, pretty well. So I just felt like it was a bit like just fate, and I felt like my hands were tied a little bit. And I just got to the point where it's enough, like she's got to be with me. This is ridiculous. So
it sounds like the universe wanted you both together. So now that's happening. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Good for you. I'm so happy to hear that. It's hard
It's
hard to be horseless, especially when you arrive in a new place.
Yeah, well, I've not been riding for a little while actually now. So I think it'll be really nice because, us horsey girls are like, I think when you don't have a horse, like, I think it's not, I mean, everything's okay, obviously, but I think when you have a horse, you just find that peace and, that balance and just being outside. And so I think, I'll be really happy when I get back into it.
And what is your mare's name? I don't know if we got the name.
Frieda. So she's by a stallion called First Wilhelm, and you've got to call the mares, she's an Oldenburg with an F. They've got to have the start with an F from the sire's name. So I called her Frieda.
I love that. That's great. So we'll get to see some hopefully pictures of Frieda in your show notes when I recap the show. What is common when I'm interviewing people for this podcast is that we all love horses and we all love riding. And, I really want to talk to you about writing horse books. Tell us a little bit about what excites you about writing horse books and why you started writing horse books. And then we can get into talking about your books.
Well, I think for me, it was, obviously it's my passion. And so I think when something's your passion, it's easy to do, So, and I also love writing. So at school, I used to do a lot of creative writing and was really encouraged at high school. So, I think maybe when I was about 16, I had this little dream of like recreating the Saddle Club because I used to love the Saddle Club books. And and I think I even started to write a manuscript back then, but it was a bit rubbish. And then I just kind of forgot about it. But I held on to it actually, I had a printed copy. So I think it was just something for me that I just like writing. It's, I find it creative. I also thought, maybe I could do, something cool like the Saddle Club because I wasn't sure if there was anything around like that. Like there weren't, because there are a lot of horse books around. I don't think I realized how many horse books were around until I started writing them. But I felt like, there wasn't anything with, 3 sort of girls that were like fun, one of them was quite quirky, and I thought that maybe I could create books that are a bit addictive like the Saddle Club, and, the girls that could really relate to. So I guess that's what I was trying to do, but also to write books that were educational from a horsey perspective, because I felt that some books that I had read, the authors didn't really know that much about horses. So, I have gotten a lot of feedback from readers of my books that, this girl actually really knows horses and, and it's really helpful for her kids, that are learning. And so I guess that's, I wanted to do something that was entertaining and, dealt with coming of age issues, but also was educational from a horsey perspective.
Absolutely. And I think what's interesting too about your books, is that you write for a particular age group. There's a lot of, like older young adult horse books, I feel like, but you write in like for a particular age group, and it's more like elementary grade. Would you say? Talk a little bit about your choice of audience and for your books.
Yeah, I think I started out writing for middle grade, but now they've probably gone a little bit into younger YA. And being honest, I think it's a little bit of, like first time author, I don't know, maybe a mistake but also growing, like I think I started the first book and it was quite middle grade, but the second and third books have gone a little bit more into deeper, YA issues. But I think there's a bit of crossover, so it's more probably older, middle grade, and younger YA. Like I think they still work together.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there is crossover. I think probably if I had to do it again, I don't know, maybe the first book would have made a little bit more YA, a little bit more challenging with some of the coming of age issues, because I think the second and third books are. But then at the same time, I think the first character in the first book, like I think it's realistic the way I portrayed her life, and that's okay because her life's a little bit easier than the other girls, and I don't know, that happens in life as well. So,
and I think it's suitable. I like that first book is readable across. I mean, I was an adult and I read it and I really enjoyed it. So it can. What I like is that a younger person can read it, but so can an older person, and even a mother and a daughter could read it together. So it's very readable, which I appreciate.
I've got a lot of feedback from like nostalgic adults that just love it, and actually even now, like, I think the second and third books are much better than the first book. I think the first book is a good book. I think it's well written, and I mean it had some really good editing help. But I think the second and third book, I don't know, I think they're just more meaningful for me. But in saying that, like I think nostalgic adults and mothers reading to their children, they really love the first book because it's more like fairy tale like, it's really sweet, and so
and that is just the experience of an author, going from the first book to the second book to the third book, and as you write, I mean, we continuously are growing, and I think a lot of the beauty of the journey of becoming an author is just finally putting that first thing out there. I think we can all look back at our first books and say, oh, I wish I had done this, or I wish I had done that. But just the fact that you wrote a book, which you're now extending into a series, is a huge accomplishment, and you should be very proud of that, So we're hard on ourselves. So hold up your book series and tell us the books that you have in it so far. And
oh, yes. So the first one is Leaving the City. So this is a book about a girl called Kate Sullivan who moves from London, not the inner city of London, but around the edges of London. And her parents buy a beautiful farm in Devon. So this is her story of how that all goes. And this is the book that I think is maybe a little bit more middle grade than the others. But it's really, I think it's a sweet book and like feel good. So and I've had really good like feedback and reviews on the book. So
So Sweetbriars. Yep. So that was Sweetbriars book 1. Yeah.
Okay. This is the second book. So this is Tabby's Big Year. And so this is about Tabby, one of the other girls. So as I said before, there's 3 girls in the series. And this is a girl that becomes Kate's best friend. And and this just kind of journeys her life, and she has a few family issues, and of course, as all the books do, feature horses quite heavily. And then the third book is the most recent book, which I released in December. And this one's called Finding Violet. And this is about the third character, Violet. She's a bit like quirky and sassy. And I think this is one of my favorite books. I actually managed to write this one in 3.5 months.
Oh my gosh. We're going to have to discuss how you did that. That's fantastic.
So, and I think, I'm quite happy with it. So,
That's great. And then, while we're on that topic of writing a book in 3.5 months, are you talking wrote the book, did the cover, and got the whole thing out in 3.5 months?
Yeah. And I moved country, and I was looking after my little boy full time.
That's amazing.
He was going to kinder in Barcelona in Spain. And then when we moved, I was looking after him until the new year started. Mm-hmm. So when he would nap in the afternoons, I would write. And and also sometimes I'd wake up at 5 a.m. and write as well. So especially near the end.
So what I'm hearing is that you just got your hiney in the seat and sat down and used that time that you had and just wrote and were diligent about it and stayed focused.
It was the main thing I did when I had spare time. So
that's wonderful.
Because I wanted to release it for December actually. Mm-hmm. So that was my goal. The only problem was I had a bit of a hiccup because I uploaded a manuscript to KDP to do a pre-order. I wanted to try and do a pre-order because I hadn't done it before.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the time difference here, I got confused with when I had to upload the final manuscript. And so the manuscript that was not finished went out to the people that bought the pre-orders.
Oh, goodness.
So that was not great. But actually it wasn't, I don't think the manuscript was that bad, but it wasn't completely finished. But I didn't really get any bad feedback, surprisingly. But I was like freaking out about it.
I can imagine. I would forget about that too. And to be honest, it is confusing with the time zones. Hollie and I actually had a few hiccups trying to schedule our interview together, because we just realized when we're talking about Tuesday for me, it's actually Wednesday for her, and we thought we were talking about the same day. So it took a minute for us to get scheduled here. But what I think you were saying is that you uploaded your manuscript, but it might not have been the final.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. So it was a complete story, but it just didn't have all the like little tiny edits that it usually gets right before it goes out.
Yeah. So, and I think I missed, like I went in to upload the final version and it was like literally 1 hour that I had missed the cutoff. And I'm like, oh my God, like and I put like all these reminders in my diary and anyway, I just got confused, but it was okay in the end. I didn't get any horrible reviews or anything. So
phew, that's a big relief,
Yeah.
But, that's the funny thing. There's always a learning curve, particularly if you're independently published, and trying to figure things out. But then, also great tip for any authors who are working with KDP, which is based here in the US from, outside the US, you got to check your time zones and make sure like double check.
And they're really strict. If you email them, they won't upload the new version. It's technically not possible, they told me.
Oh, wow.
So I think I'd recommend sending an alert maybe the day before and not leaving it as fine as I did.
Well, thank you for sharing that mistake or the accident, right? That actually didn't turn out badly, but because you just shared that on the show, maybe this will help someone else from having the same thing happen. So thank you for sharing that. And I love your book covers, and I wanted to talk about something that you did that was really unique when it comes to cover design of your books. You had a cover star contest, which I think is so cool. And so tell us a little bit about the cover of the Sweetbriars series and how you thought of the cover star idea, and then how did you get the word out about that?
Oh, well, I guess I was just trying to think of something that would make readers feel involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I also needed something for my cover. So I thought, I know the idea came to me one day and I thought, well, that's great because, I can get readers involved by doing this. It's such a unique thing to be on a book because books are around forever.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I can also get, an image for the cover. So, and I was quite lucky actually, because I think a lot of people would think, oh, that's going to go wrong. You won't get the right image that you want. But I think the images turned out pretty good in the end for all three. What I did in the beginning was I just used Facebook. I went into big Facebook pages that I knew in the UK. So Facebook pages like British Dressage. There's one called Chit Chat and Tack, which has it's 100,000 members, something like that. And there was another one, I can't remember what it's called, maybe Horse Chit Chat. So I went there and just said, oh, look, I'm starting this new series and I'm looking for a girl of this age. And I got a huge response. So maybe like 500 people at least sent me photos. And so, I had to like pour through them. And in the end, I found one of a girl called Faye, who is a show writer in the UK. And now she's doing dressage, actually. She's a really good writer. She's written the Horse of the Year show and the Royal Windsor show, which is the Queen's show. The photographer, Paul Ruffle, he's quite well known in the UK as well. And so he's the one that took the photo. And it's of Faye in a meadow with her one of her ponies, who's gorgeous, a Palomino, and also matched the main horse in the first book, Kate's pony. So, and I just fell in love with the photo. And so in the end, I said, great, I'd like this photo for the first book cover. And they agreed. And and that was it, really. So, and then I think that was good because then I guess I had a lot of people engaging on social media about, this new book series. So, I went and followed up with some posts saying, oh, this is the girl that I've chosen for these reasons. And like I did an interview with her and published it on the website and on social media. And also, I think because her family were quite involved in horses in the UK, they helped to get the word out as well, which was great. So yeah, and then the second time, I actually tried to take it a little bit further, where where girls could win a photo shoot with their pony. So so I asked them why they wanted to win, basically. And I had quite a few entrants for that as well. And I advertised it through the Pony magazine in the UK. And in the end, I chose a girl called Sia because her entry was so cute. I can share it with you if I can find it.
Oh, that would be lovely.
Basically, Sia has a pony called Frankie, who is a Haflinger, and I think he's 14 or something like that. And they've had him a long time. They rescued him. And so I said to girls, why do you want to enter this competition? And she said, actually, her pony's 18. My pony, Frankie, is 18 years old and he has arthritis. His glory days are over. He's a 1 in a million pony and I love him so much. To me, the best way I can think of celebrating him is having him on the cover of a wonderful book. I just thought it was so sweet. Like I had a lot of girls entering, with their really like fancy, kind of warm bloods or whatever. But I just thought it was so sweet. And the photo that they sent to me, like you could really see the connection with them. And so I chose her. And I think because on the first cover I had a girl that, was really well known in showing and stuff like that. I wanted to have a girl that was a little bit more normal, So so then a girl called Kade Amos, who I know through horses, as she's a photographer in the UK. She went and did the photo shoot and everything went well. The only problem was Frankie's a little bit greedy with the grass and it was spring. So it was difficult to keep his nose out of the grass for the photos. But apart from that, it went quite well. Also cost me a lot more money to do the second one. So then with the third book, because I wanted to release it in 3.5 months, I didn't actually do the cover style competition again. So for the third, I got in touch with Paul Ruffle, again, the photographer from the first book. And so he had sent me some photos of some other girls who I used on my website to depict the other characters. And I remember that one of them had a grey pony and it was really, really lovely photos. And I thought, maybe I could use some of those photos for the third book because for Violet, she has a grey horse. And so that would work. So I got in touch with Paul and also the girl who's on the front cover, Tyler, and they were delighted to be on the third book. So it was really easy, actually.
Again, you explain something that happens on the author journey. You try different things and you see what works and you look at, how much time and how much money you have to put into certain things and you can continue or you can decide, to try it a different way. So like you tried a lot of different angles so that they're all real people with their ponies. And then I imagine there was a little bit of a legal contract involved in using their likenesses on the cover of your books and then also using the work of the photographer who you had take the picture. So you were, you have the right to use them all and you had to do a little contract with them. Is that right?
I did. Yeah. I did a contract just saying that, they agreed to license the photos to Sweetbriars book series like forever. And, at some point, they can't ask for money or whatever, that we've already, agreed that they're happy to be on the cover. I did in the end, I paid the photographer some money to use the third book. And obviously the second book I had to pay for the photo shoot.
I bring that up just for any aspiring authors who are listening in, to make sure that you are, doing the right thing legally by how you want to use these, retain the rights to use the photos and then also, make sure that you're covering the photographer and the people who are posing. So there's legal aspects to being an author, I guess is what I'm, just wanting to share with people who are listening into this conversation.
I was concerned over that actually a little bit. I had a little bit of concern. And also though, having worked in marketing before, I'd done a lot of photography. So I've done like a lot of lifestyle photography. So I knew a little bit about licensing photos and how things worked. I also credited the photographer and the girls and the ponies in each of the books.
Absolutely. So you basically, you did it correctly. You talked about, I love this, because you are a horse person, you're writing, great educational books. And I love that you have a glossary of terms on the Sweetbriars website, which is, I think, a really great idea when people, and you also have them in the back of your book. So, talk to us a little bit about you thought of that idea.
Well, I think the first book, I actually used an editor that was not horsey,
Hmm.
and I found her through Reedsy. You know Reedsy?
Hmm.
Yeah, so they have some really good editors and good people on there to get help with publishing your books. And she kept on like questioning a lot of stuff and saying people are not going to know what this is, blah blah. And actually, no, maybe she was slightly horsey. I think she had a little bit to do with horses, but was not really horsey. So I think because of that, she kept on asking me all these questions. I thought it was a good idea to have a glossary. I think a good percentage of the people, and through engaging with readers, is more the hobby writers. Maybe they don't have their own horse. They're only riding once a week, once a month even, but they just adore horses. And for them, I think that's where it was really helpful. And also the fact that, as I said before, I try and make the books educational as well. So that's where it came from. Just the fact that the editor was unsure about some things. And then I figured that, I think a good percentage of the readers are not that serious, writers. They aspire to be and to learn more, but they're still learning. So
yeah, and that's a great idea. I mean, so many, I grew up not when I didn't own a horse, reading like the Black Stallion books, and you said Saddle Club, and so these your books are the kind of books that kids who dream of having a horse or maybe just starting riding lessons will definitely pick up. So I think it's really fabulous that you included the glossary. It's a really great way to educate your readers. So good job.
Thank you. I do get so I see that I'm getting traffic on like through Google. So I think it's like indexing, like in SEO and stuff. So it drives a bit of traffic to the website. So I think, the more sort of content, things like that you can put on your website, it does help to drive awareness of your book.
Yeah, that's great. And then people just doing a general search for glossary of equestrian terms or what have you could stumble across your
Yeah,
website
exactly.
and then buy your book. That's really great.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think heaps are doing it, but I do see that it drives a little bit of traffic and interest, so that's good.
That's great. And then you have this other really cool page on your website that I love. It's called your Celebrate the Palomino page, where readers can send you pictures of their palominos. And I love palominos. I grew up with palominos, so color horses are
Yeah.
always my favorite. But tell us about the page and how readers can submit their photos and where that idea come from. That's a really cool idea.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, again, for being a marketer before, I had all these ideas and, bringing some ideas that I had from my career, into the book. So again, it was about trying to just get readers involved and, drive awareness of the books and engage with readers. So I think that I did some posts just on social media and got loads of people sending me their Palomino photos and coming to the website. So, learning about the books, which was good.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely welcome people if they'd like to have their Palomino on there. All they need to do is email me the photo with the name of whoever the person is in the photo and the name of the horse. And the email address is hello@sweetbriarsfarm.com.
Which kind of leads me, I wanted to ask you this question. I know this because we talked before, or early on in your author career, like we connected, and you told me what you used to do in the marketing world. And I thought maybe since, you mentioned a couple times that you used to, work in marketing, what did you do in your life before being an author in the
Oh,
marketing?
well, so after uni, I studied like business and marketing. And then I started working for P&G.
Mhm.
Probably everybody knows them, like in a graduate role. And then since then, I've worked for just lots of big companies, really. So I worked for Pernod Ricard, which is they sell like wine, champagne. I worked for General Mills, a big American company. I've worked for Orange, the telco across Europe. That was like an innovation, launching new products. I worked for Red Bull in London as well. I set up the European Partnerships Department and also launched a mobile product for them. And then my last role was working for Vistaprint, another American company. And I was managing their second biggest business globally. So yeah,
which is really cool. And I think a lot of authors can actually identify with it, particularly the Vistaprint position, because a lot of us order from them, order banners or business cards or what have you from Vistaprint. And I think it's a really cool testament to how, even though you're in a corporate position, it often is the learning basis you need in order to establish your author career, where you learn all those marketing things. I feel like I'm stronger as an author and a representation of my own brand because I've represented other people's brands.
But
Yeah,
definitely, I mean, the ideas and stuff, that I had, and that background like helps so much.
you have a big background. You have a lot of skills in your toolbox. If you could go back and tell your fresh out of the gate author self with the first book, like what would you go back and tell yourself if you could, having had that experience?
I don't know if I would undo some of the things that I've done. I think I needed to try that. And also I think as much as like maybe when I did the Pony magazine advertising, so I did it a few times, maybe I didn't get like direct sales, but I think over time it builds, like, because with marketing, people need to see the ads over a series of times before they act on it. So I think it did help. And also actually I built a relationship with the Pony magazine. And so that gave me a lot of like editorial. So like they would include me in, like best books features and things like that for free. So that was really nice. So I think, I mean, maybe, after I did the ads, I was expecting, this really like great sales period, which I didn't really get. I think like with the third book, I didn't really do anything like that. Like Pony magazine approached me about doing advertising and I said no this time. But, I've put it, like I've done author swaps. So, like featuring, asking other authors to feature it on their website. And I did a giveaway where I gave away like the first 3 books. Well, there's only 3 books, but I gave away 3 books in the series, things like that were a little bit low cost. So I think, I thought that works just as well, really. So, yeah.
And I love your answer that you wouldn't take anything back because it was all learning experience. I feel the same way. It's like, because for each person in each book and each genre and everything we're doing, it's different what's going to work. So you almost have to have that trial period where you figure out like, where do I want to put things? But I'm with you. I've kind of found that the things that don't cost exactly as much have just as big of an impact than if you went out and spent a ton of money on like Facebook ads or something. Because I think what you're talking about is like you've been building your brand around the Sweetbriars series, and people are starting to know you and know the books and recognize you, and that it kind of just grows, and that's more organic, and you don't really have to pay for that, as long as you're putting yourself out there. So I think that's great advice.
Yeah, I also had Horse and Hound published or featured a book twice now. So that was really cool because Horse and Hound is huge in the UK. It's bigger than the Pony magazine. And they called it a must read for horsey children.
Oh,
so that was really awesome, to be able to use that, like create or to, because they did an online feature for 2 books, so the first 2 books. And, I was able to then use that on social media. And I think that makes you really credible.
Oh, it does. I mean, earned media is, media you don't pay for, where actually a publication covers your work, and then you get like a featured in a magazine, and then, that's like really credible. So congratulations.
The only thing is scary is, I mean, they really did review the book. So, you sent it to them, you're like, oh, I hope they like it. But they did, both books. So that was great.
Yeah, well, congratulations. I mean, getting coverage like that is really beautiful and priceless, and it's such an honor as an author.
So that was really nice.
That's awesome. Now, did you pitch them, or did they find you? How did that work?
I pitched them.
Okay, yeah. So for authors that may not know about, this is a whole conversation in and of itself, but can you summarize, what it means to pitch? And we're talking PR here, so what it looks like to pitch a magazine. Like, can you talk about
I think it just comes down to what you're trying to sell and why it's differentiated. So like when I approached them, I said that the books had 3 girls, that it was a little bit different in the market at the moment, and also about the cover star. They really liked that. Trying to think what else. The reviews. So I'd gotten really good reviews, and for the first book I really pushed hard for reviews, like really. And I was getting great reviews. So I think actually that was the biggest thing. So I was showing my reviews. I did I sent the book to read, only the first one, to Reader's Favorite. I got a really good review from them. And then, I think I just, gave like a snippet or the blurb of the first book, and how, I thought it was a little bit different because there's 3 girls, and at this present time, a lot of the similar horse books focus on one girl. And I think it's great because young girls can then relate to, there's 3 different girls, so they can, decide which girl that they relate to or whatever. And so that was it. And yeah, as I said, the cover star was, interesting. Maybe having Faye because she was a well-known writer. And, yeah.
So what I really heard and what I liked that in what you said is that you were very thoughtful about how you pitched and approached the media publication, but you told them about what unique value and something interesting that your book series was offering. The unique angle of the 3 women or the 3 girls. So they had something to choose from, but then also the interesting, unique angle of having done the cover star contest, which kind of gives them a hook to dig into a little bit more to be able to tell a story about your books, which is really smart.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really, really great. And then I love this too about your work as an author. You support the RDA by donating a percentage of each book sale to charity. How did you can you tell us a little bit more about the organization and how you got involved with them? And then, why you decided to donate part of the proceeds from the book?
Well, again, I think maybe having worked for big brands, this is something that we do a lot, that will support various charities or causes. And I think though the idea related to Sweetbriars came to me was a friend of mine has a little girl that's autistic, and she's quite highly autistic and she doesn't communicate very much. And one day, I saw her riding their pony, and just her face was completely lit up. She had, a huge smile on her face. It was the first time I've really seen her that happy, and it was just wow, it was so nice. And then also a friend of mine was doing some volunteer work for the RDA, so I was familiar with what they did. And so basically I just reached out to them and again gave them the blurb and why the book series is unique, etc. And also I think by that time I'd gotten a little bit of I'd been featured by Horse and Hound and stuff, so it kind of helped again to have credibility. And I mean, generally they're not going to knock back support.
Oh, I think it's lovely, and I think what you're speaking to is a testament to the healing power of horses. And I think it's really special to support that kind of healing. I think what you're doing in writing a series is really special because I think there's a lot of power behind writing a series, because every book you put out is one more for those fans that are already reading your books. But the more books you put out, the more power a series has and the more profit that you are able to make, because people start going down the line and reading book after book after book. So that was...
Yeah, and I think Amazon supports you more.
I also found when I got the 3rd book out in my series, it elevated all of the books in the series, because I think people didn't want to invest. And I'm one of these readers. I want the whole series to be out before I engage, because I like to binge read. And I think I found that once 3 books are out, people were buying them all, and so that's the power of a series, which you're doing. So that's great.
Yeah, and I think you have a lot more just if you go into Amazon and you see 3 books, you just have a lot more visually, a lot more presence, and you stand out more.
Yeah, well, what's really interesting is I read this really cool book by Elizabeth Gilbert. She's famous for writing Eat, Pray, Love, and it's called Big Magic.
Oh yeah, she's one of my favorite authors.
Oh, have you read Big Magic? It's fabulous. It talks about I highly recommend it. I'll send you the link after the show. But she talks about her experience as a creative. It's actually her writing to other creatives from a perspective that she has, that she says you can't ever rely on your muse to be your sole income maker, because it actually deflates the power of your muse, which is the source of your creativity. She said that even after Eat, Pray, Love hit such a successful place, she still had her job, because she never wanted to put that kind of pressure on her creative self. It's just really...
It's really interesting. Super interesting.
It's really...
I think you're doing it for the wrong reasons, actually. I think, like you said, in the beginning, you expect millions of people are going to buy the book, and it's so disappointing because you put so much time and, effort and love into this thing. And it's so hard, really hard. But then I think it's a journey, the way you think about things. And then, you kind of realize, but actually this is something I really wanted to do. And again, what you said before, I wrote a book and I did this and people are reading it. And, and I've been able to be creative and, it's amazing. And I think too, when you read other like you start to engage with other authors, and I realized, actually, I think I've done pretty well, like in the context of things. And so it can always be better, it can always be worse, but as long as you're enjoying it, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, and she talks a lot about that in the book, is to enjoy the journey of creating, because that's what is feeding your soul, and it's really interesting. And and then another thing too about, well, and I was going to ask you this question. I know that you're independently published, and I think there's a lot of power in that, because you don't have to sign any contracts. Your contract is with yourself, right? So you retain the intellectual property that is your entire series. So maybe the paperback version isn't bringing the landslide, but you have so many opportunities to create additional income streams for revenue, because you own that intellectual property. So you can go ebook, you can go paperback, you can go hardcover, you can go audiobook, you can pitch TV and media and movies, and see what happens. So you have the power. You didn't sign any of those rights away to a traditional publisher to take that one book you wrote and have all these different revenue streams from that one book. So there's a lot of opportunity to continue to grow it as you grow your brand, which is cool.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Then, because we did talk a little bit about independent publishing, why did you decide to go the independent route with your series?
I think for me, like, I read a lot of stories about how independent authors were doing quite well, and the potential, especially with ebooks. And so I thought that, being probably in the past, I've been a little bit entrepreneurial. It suited me. I could launch or release something, when I wanted to do, on my own terms, and control it, like you were saying before.
The person reading your book is not the one with the credit card linked to the Amazon account that's able to buy your book. So it's probably a lot of encouraging mom and dad to buy the books, right? So I can see how that's a little bit of a hurdle to get over, because of who you write for. So I'm wondering, how do you reach your readers? Like, how are you getting the word out about your books? You've talked about the cover star contest and some of the other things you're doing, but like, what is your main way of reaching your readers, your demographic?
As I mentioned before, initially I thought Pony magazine was like a really great type of media, a magazine, to reach readers, because they're readers, exactly who should be reading my book. They're like 9 to like 14, and pony mad, and they love reading. They're reading the Pony magazine. So yeah, initially, like, I thought that would be a good way to reach readers, and then they can tell their parents that they want the book. So that was my thinking there. I think a lot of the other stuff that I've done has probably more targeted the parents. So, and I think that the message for trying to target the parents was often, about the reviews, and how, I had actually, for the first book, I had a lot of reviews just from kids that their parents had gotten. So I shared those, which are really sweet.
Oh.
And so, yeah, I think I was just trying to target the parents that way. And also it was something new and different, because I think I mentioned Stacey Grigg before. She's been around a long time. She has so many books. I think that they like to try something that's new and different. And then probably the other message that I shared with parents was the educational factor about horses. And yeah, so
and is that mainly through like Facebook and Facebook groups and things like that, like you mentioned earlier?
Yeah. So I'd share things like reviews, take a screenshot or whatever of reviews and share those on Facebook. I also did quite a bit of Facebook advertising in the beginning. And I've not got a huge following, but I think I've got like close to 1,000 followers.
That's good.
Followers. Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. So yeah, I think the problem is, because I used to work for such big brands and stuff, you kind of remember what you used to have, So, but no, I know it's not bad. So yes, I think there, like on the Facebook, my Facebook page, or Sweetbriars Facebook page, I would regularly share a lot of this information, and just, fun sort of horse stuff like you do, and what else? Yeah. So, and then also I think that I also came to the conclusion that it's great to do advertising, really to readers. Because I felt like, I guess the Pony magazine, I was advertising to, girls like to read magazines, but maybe a magazine's a bit different to a book. So that's when I started to do things like, eBooksy, like free giveaways, like AMS, Amazon advertising, because, they're there in the moment, on Amazon when they see the ads. So all they have to do is click through to buy very easily. So I thought, that way I'm really targeting people that are shopping and reading on Amazon. I think that's it really. So the main thing I did was just print, so magazines. Also got some free PR from like Horse and Hound and also from Pony Magazine. Just social media and just reviews. I guess reviews are so important, So, and if you can get horse bloggers and stuff like you to do reviews, that's really really awesome as well. So. Yeah.
Well, and that's really great. And you have a lot of really good reviews, and it's funny. They say for every 100 people that read a book, only one person will leave a review. And I know that you generated tons of reviews for your first book by just doing outreach. Like, what do you think is the best way to reach out and get book reviews, authentic book reviews, right? Without there used to be these scams where people could go out and pay for reviews. I don't think you can do that anymore. But like, how do you ask a reader to review your book?
Well, I went on to Goodreads and I started networking with a lot of people that liked horse books and like, making friends with them and like commenting on horse books that I liked or, that I saw that they were reading and just trying to build up a bit of a relationship that way. And so that's all. For the first book, that's how I got a lot of my reviews because I was just chatting to them. Hey, I've got this new book. Would you be interested to review it for free? And then, or a lot of the people too on Goodreads have Kindle Unlimited, so they'll go and download it, which is great.
Oh, that's
so
great.
That happened a lot. So so it was it was a lot of reaching out to people. I was obsessed with it in the beginning. And then the second and third, I just took a lot of reviewers from the first book to the second and the third. And they were really willing. And I think because they enjoyed the first book. So that was great. But the second and the third book, I don't have as many reviews. And I didn't feel like I had the energy to, go out and email like thousands of people about it. But maybe now I finished the third book, I should start to do that a little bit more because I'd like to get some more reviews. I also updated like the back matter in the book to try and make the call to action a little bit more obvious for the reviews. So like at the end of the book, I removed the end. So I just finished the book because I think what happens is people go to the end and if they're in like reading an ebook, they just come out. So they're not going to the next page to see, please leave a review. So I took out the end. So then hopefully they'll at least go to the next page where it says, please leave a review. Authors like really need reviews.
And I like a few things you said. You said, because you were building relationships with people around the first book and you were offering them, and you went to the place where they were, which is Goodreads, where people are really, really, really readers. So you were going to your right market, but then you were building relationship before making the ask, which I think is really important. That's a very important public relations tip. Just don't blast people with review my book, build a little bit of a rapport with them first. And then you also mentioned too that you don't have as many reviews for the second and third book, which is normal with series. People that review the first one generally don't, think they need to go on and review the second and the third.
Yeah.
But what you did establish is you established a group of people from the first round of outreach that you did that then you had a network of people to reach out to again when your second book came around. So you built a community around your book that you had access to with each new book that comes out, which is
it was so much easier. I mean, they even contacted me asking when's the next book out.
Oh, so that's great feedback.
Really nice. Yeah. And even like I did a few posts just like for the third book when I released it and people were like, please keep on writing them. And it was so nice. And I'm like, well, I'm going to take a little break for now, but
that's lovely. That's why we write. Once it comes out of our brains and on the paper and it's out in the world, it is then for our readers. And hearing something like that is just so awesome. What are you curious about? Like where you think you're heading in the future?
Well, I think from a practical perspective is I'd probably like to become a little bit more independent. So I'm obviously independently published, but things like the covers, I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on what I'm writing, but I think for Sweetbriars, because literally I'm using the same creative and artwork for every book and it's just a photo. So I'd love to learn how to do that myself, in Photoshop. because that would save me a bit of money. And also you can just do it when you want yourself then. So I was thinking about doing a Photoshop course, and I was also interested in maybe getting, I'm not getting a dictaphone, but maybe downloading some dictaphone software. I did try with the dictaphone software on my Mac, but it's not very good. But I saw an article the other day from the KDP guy, and he was recommending some dictaphone apps and software that sound really good. So they've got like high accuracy. So speaking about trying that, because especially like with my first and second book, I was sitting for so long reading that I got a slip disc in my back.
Oh, goodness.
And yeah, I'm okay now, but I think it was just from sitting, and I was sitting on the sofa. And yeah, so I think, and that's probably one of my bugbears about writing, just for sitting for so long. So I think that maybe I'm going to try this dictaphone thing and see how that works. It's just, as long as the accuracy is there, and, see how that goes. And then, in terms of books, I think I'm about to start an outline for a book based in Catalonia in Spain. And I want it to be a young adult, but it's about the political crisis there. And so I want to do it from a point of view of one of the children whose parents have been put in jail for organising a referendum. And so it's something that was really dear to my heart, because I just thought it was so unfair and so undemocratic that these people organise a referendum and then they're thrown in jail, even though like the majority of the population there want a referendum. So, but the Spanish government doesn't want to give it to them. So I thought, like, it's quite a, what's the word, like a divisive subject. And like when you're in Spain, like people can get really angry about this. But I thought maybe if I could write it from a young person's perspective in a really honest, innocent way, and maybe like have one being Catalan and then the other being Spanish, and they're friends, and they kind of show their confronting point of views. I thought it could be really powerful, and also something that's innovative, and something that also could be topical, because they have protests there, like with 1 million people. They had riots when they put the people in jail in the last 6 months, huge riots all over the news, all over the world. And so I thought I could document that in this book, and I know a lot about it. So so something that's just a little bit close to my heart. So I think I'd like to give that a go, and then maybe there was Sweetbriars after that.
Oh, I love it, Hollie, and I hear how you feel about it. Like I can hear it when you're talking about it, and like how emotional it is making you. And I think absolutely follow that. That is your muse, like dangling the carrot, telling you to come along and get behind the computer and tell that story. And I love it, and I think you should. And I think that it could be very, very powerful. And I think you could make a difference there with your writing, and that's what's calling you forward. So I high five you. Go for that one.
Thank you.
I have so enjoyed having you on the show today. I know it took us a minute to connect, but finally we're here, and we got to have our interview. And you've always been lovely to talk to. I've really enjoyed working with you. We started our author relationship with each other and Authors Unite a long time ago, and we've followed each other through a few books. Tell people where they can find you and your books. And of course, I'll link to these places in the show notes too, so people can get to you very easily. But share where people can find you and your books.
So the website is sweetbriarsfarm.com. And then there's also a Facebook page, which is just Sweetbriars Farm. Sweetbriars Farm book series. Sorry, Instagram and Twitter is Hollie and Marsh. I would love if people wanted to connect or follow me, and I'll follow you back. I do go into Twitter and Instagram probably a couple of times a week, but Facebook is probably the main media or social media that I use for Sweetbriars.
And then would you spell Sweetbriars for people too? Just, it's one word, and just spell Sweetbriars, because there's a couple different ways to spell briar. So I want to make sure people get that right.
So it's SWEETBRIARS. Well, thank you so much, Carly. I really appreciate it. You were one of the first authors to help me. I think we had a call, and I felt so like naive then, but you were just so like friendly and willing to help.
It means so much to me when authors unite, and I'm so glad that you felt comfortable enough to reach out and ask me questions. And I love it when we're doing that together and supporting the community. So, and look at you, now you're here 3 books deep, and you continue going, and we're sharing your story with listeners of the podcast. It's so cool. I love this.
Yeah, thank you. I hope it's helpful.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Equestrian Author Spotlight podcast. I hope you enjoy these Q&A sessions with wonderful equine authors who love all things horses and writing, just like me. Visit my website, carlykadecreative.com, where you can read the show notes, and make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you so much for your support. Want a free guide to secrets of horsebook authors? Gallop over to carlykadecreative.com/wisdom to have author advice delivered instantly to your inbox. If you are an author who writes about horses and would like to be spotlighted, please let me know. Visit my contact page at carlykadecreative.com to fill out a request. I'd be happy to have you on the show too. Thank you for tuning in to the Equestrian Author Spotlight podcast. See you next time. I'm your host, Carly Kade. Creative writing makes my spurs jingle.